don't usually talk about this. Not because I don't want to, but because every time I try, it feels like the words get caught in my throat. I don't expect you to believe me. I wouldn't believe me if I were you. But that doesn't matter because what happened to me was real. It started 3 years ago. I had just moved into a small studio apartment in the city. It wasn't much. Bare walls, creaky floorboards, and a single window that overlooked the alley below. But it was mine. I was excited for the independence, even if I could barely afford the place. The only thing that seemed out of place was the mirror. It was this massive, antique-looking thing mounted on the wall opposite the bed. The frame was dark wood, intricately carved with swirling patterns. The landlord said it was there when the previous tenant moved out, and it was bolted so securely to the wall that removing it would damage the plaster. I didn't think much of it at first. I mean, it was just a mirror. The first night, I noticed something odd. When I turned off the lights to go to sleep, the mirror didn't go completely dark. There was this faint shimmer, like the surface was catching light from somewhere, even though the room was pitch black. I chalked it up to city lights filtering through the window, shrugged it off, and went to bed. But the shimmer wasn't the only thing. Over the next few nights, I started waking up at odd hours, 2 a.m., 3:15 a.m., 4:30 a.m., always feeling like something was off. It was this weird sensation, like I wasn't alone in the room. One night, as I was lying there staring at the ceiling, I glanced over at the mirror. I wish I hadn't. There was a shadow. Not mine, not the room's. A distinct human-shaped shadow standing in the reflection. I bolted upright and looked behind me. Nothing. Just my tiny apartment, empty as always. When I turned back to the mirror, the shadow was gone. I told myself I was imagining things. Stress, maybe, or a trick of the light. But after that, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong with that mirror. The next few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights and growing paranoia. The shimmering surface of the mirror became almost hypnotic. I started catching glimpses of movement in the reflection, quick, subtle shifts that stopped the moment I looked directly at it. I convinced myself it was all in my head. I had a lot on my plate with work and bills piling up, and I figured my mind was playing tricks on me. But then, things got worse. One night, I woke up to a sound. It was soft at first, like a faint scratching, but it grew louder and more frantic, like nails raking against glass. It was coming from the mirror. I sat up in bed, heart pounding, and stared at the dark surface. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, slowly, something pressed against the other side. It was a hand. Pale, bony fingers splayed against the glass, pressing so hard I thought the mirror might crack. I froze, unable to move or even breathe. The hand slid down the surface and vanished, leaving no trace behind. The next morning I tried to tell a friend about what had happened, but the words sounded ridiculous as they left my mouth. A haunted mirror. Come on. He laughed it off and said I needed to get out more, maybe take a vacation. But I knew what I had seen. I started avoiding the apartment as much as I could, staying late at work or hanging out at coffee shops until closing. But no matter how late I stayed out, I always had to come back. And the mirror was always waiting. One night I decided I'd had enough. I was going to cover the damn thing and forget it existed. I found an old blanket and taped it over the frame. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. That feeling didn't last. Around 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something heavy hitting the floor. I turned on the light and saw the blanket crumpled on the ground. The mirror was uncovered, and my reflection stared back at me with wide, terrified eyes. Except it wasn't just my reflection. Behind me in the mirror was the man. He was tall and gaunt, with sunken eyes and a crooked smile that didn't belong on any human face. His skin was ashen, stretched tight over his bones, and he wore a tattered black suit that looked like it had been buried for decades. I spun around, but the room was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, he was gone. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, things escalated. I started hearing whispers whenever I got too close to the mirror. Low, guttural voices that spoke in a language I couldn't understand. Sometimes, I'd see the man in the corner of my eye, standing just at the edge of the reflection. He never moved, never spoke, just stared with that awful smile. I tried to leave. I packed a bag and headed for the door, but the second I touched the handle, I felt this overwhelming dread, like something terrible would happen if I stepped outside. I was trapped. The final night, I woke up to the sound of my own voice. "Help me!" It was coming from the mirror. I turned on the light and saw myself in the reflection, but it wasn't me. My reflection was screaming, clawing at the glass like it was trying to get out. And behind it, the man was watching. I don't remember much after that. I think I passed out from sheer terror. When I woke up, it was morning, and the mirror was gone. The wall where it had been bolted was smooth, like it had never been there at all. I moved out that same day. I've tried to put it behind me, to convince myself it was all some kind of vivid nightmare. But sometimes, late at night, I catch a shimmer out of the corner of my eye, and I wonder if the man is still watching.